Flashbox Fiction presents Lonely Hero, written and narrated by Wilson E. Clark. "Why couldn't you save him?" the woman screamed, her voice hoarse and body shaking as tears poured from her eyes. "Why not him? Why?" Her words tore through Lawrence like a train smashing through a brick wall as he stood before them, watching the mother cradle her lifeless teenage son. In shock over his failure, Lawrence stumbled backwards into the car bumper that had created the tragedy. He whirled around and stared at the driver, still sitting behind the wheel, and frozen in disbelief. "What are you doing?" Lawrence shouted at him. "Get out and help!" Anger and frustration surged through his veins as Lawrence lifted one arm and slammed his fist through the car hood. Metal and plastic collapsed inward as Lawrence punched clear through the engine to the street below. Lawrence yanked his arm out again and shook debris from the appendage. He turned around and walked forward, his arms outstretched towards the boy. Sirens rang in the distance. Maybe there's still a chance, Lawrence thought. Maybe if I teleport him to the hospital, maybe he's not. As he knelt down to scoop up the boy, the mother clung tighter to the body and looked up at him again. "Get away from him! Get away from us!" she hissed. Lawrence was shaken to the core as her bloodshot eyes, wrinkled nose, and bared teeth reduced him to helplessness. Standing up, he felt 100 eyes staring at him, questioning, judging as the surrounding crowd grew larger. "Please," Lawrence pleaded in his mind. "Please, I couldn't make it in time. I'm sorry I didn't. I'm so sorry." Lawrence glanced around, hoping for some show of support, some hint he wasn't alone, but there was silence. Lawrence caught himself sniffling as guilt overcame his thoughts. He lowered his head so no one could see his moist eyes, closed them, and vanished into thin air, leaving only a faint wisp of smoke behind. Part 2. "No one said this life would be easy." "Shut up. No altruistic bullcrap. I'm too tired for that today." "But what about—" Lawrence waved away the conflicting voices in his head, reflections of his two lives. One, using his powers to help people. The other, trying to be an electrical engineer for a local technology firm. Today saw another missed meeting at work, which would probably lead to more complaints from his boss about attendance and the decreasing quality of his work. Heck, he might even be fired at some point. "Does it really matter anymore?" Lawrence said out loud. "Does any of this?" The sun was sinking over the horizon as Lawrence cast his gaze upon the jungle of glowing skyscrapers before him. His city. As he did, the pair of voices in his mind began to argue once more. "Are you really that arrogant to presume this is your city? You do realize they have city services. Police, fire, hospitals, courts. Who the heck are you? No one appointed you. You're just some guy in a suit." "More than that," the other voice said. "You're a symbol, an inspiration. People look up to you." "Like they did today?" "A bad day at worst." Lawrence sighed. He'd been having a lot of bad days lately, and was getting tired of it. Tired of having to be two different people all the time. Tired of the fact he never had time for a girlfriend or the family he eventually wanted. He felt himself collapsing under the burden of expectations placed upon him. He wasn't Jesus Christ, Buddha, or any kind of prophet or savior. Just an ordinary man with extraordinary powers, trying his best to help out. "I don't know," he said out loud. "Perhaps it's time to throw in the towel." Neither of the voices in his mind responded, and Lawrence sat there, relaxing his head on his knees, gazing at the metropolis below. He was almost asleep when there was a sudden jolt in his brain. The premonition filled his thoughts, and Lawrence jumped to his feet on instinct, pure energy surging through his body like a wildfire. Part 3. The robbers didn't realize what hit them as Lawrence appeared out of nowhere, teleporting around the bank lobby in a series of flashes. After disarming each criminal, he flung them across the room, away from the hostages. In the midst of all the action, there was a single gunshot, and dread passed through Lawrence as he incapacitated the last of the gunmen. He glanced left and right while teleporting to the center of the room. Please, God, he thought, the memory of the lifeless boy and his mother resurfacing. Please, not another one. Not another mistake on my part. He breathed a silent sigh of relief after realizing the bullet had struck a window, merely shattering the glass. No one in the crowded lobby was hurt. Lawrence looked around and helped up the dazed manager, who bore a nasty bruise across his face from the butt of an assault rifle. The bank manager looked at him, not knowing what to say. Lawrence glanced around and saw the sea of eyes watching him, all with blank stares. Lawrence lowered his head and prepared to teleport out of the bank when a pair of clapping hands caught his attention, followed by another and another, until the entire bank lobby was applauding and cheering him. He looked at the bank manager, who smiled back at him as well, nodding his head in silent thanks. Don't get too full of yourself, buddy. They'll love you now, but how about tomorrow? The next time you goof up, they'll pounce again without mercy. Leave him alone, the other voice in Lawrence's mind said. He's not perfect, but he's working as hard as he can. Lawrence waved away the conflicting voices and smiled. The second voice was right. He wasn't perfect, but regardless of what happened, he would continue to work as hard as he could for the people of the city. Whether or not that was enough for them, it would be enough for him. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Flashbox Fiction. Be sure to like and subscribe for new stories. And until next time, remember, stay weird.